the moment where I have to be silent, I'm like, I feel uncomfortable if I breathe or do anything.
But you do breathe quite heavily.
Well, I know, and it's because the only thing I can, all my body wants to do when you tell me I have to be silent is I start manually breathing.
Have we started?
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah. I think it is. This is our first ever comic literate cold open.
But have I put in the music? That's the question. Like, the listener knows because I have or have not put in the music.
Cue the music. I hope that worked. I hope that came across in editing.
Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lira podcast, the podcast where I, Ryan, also soon to be known as Comic Stan, get my real book nerd of a bloke co-host, make him read some comics, which are sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes mid, and then we talk about it. And with me, as always, is my aforementioned hyper-carnivorous co-host, it's Jamie.
Yeah, fair enough.
All I did, literally, I searched birds of prey. By the way, we're doing birds of prey this week. Searched birds of prey because I was like, there'll be an adjective there or something. And then it was like hyper-carnivorous. And I was like, well, that's a great word.
So I did lots of research on birds of prey.
Exclusively for this or just in your spare time?
Exclusively for this.
Okay.
So I have a favourite bird of prey.
Wow, really?
Yeah, not even like a favourite species of bird of prey, but a favourite like individual bird.
Okay, what's his name?
Oh, wait, I never named him. But I drove past him twice a day.
So we've assumed it's him. That's on us.
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't. So it was a sparrowhawk,
right? They were a sparrowhawk.
They were a sparrowhawk, and sparrowhawks have a plucking post. They have a place that they go to for as often as they can to dismember and eat their prey.
Okay.
And this sparrowhawk had picked a tree that had then died, and so it was this snaggly, gnarled tree. I'd drive past it every morning on my way to work because I worked in the countryside for a long time, didn't I? In the middle of nowhere. And I'd drive past this sparrowhawk and you could see it because there was no foliage left on the tree and it would just be like dismembering a mouse in this tree. And I was like, you, my guy, you seem like a cool dude.
I can agree. Although I would say my favorite bird of prey is probably any owl because any creature that can rotate its head all the way around is automatically the coolest.
Really useful in many situations.
Well, looking behind you mainly.
Yeah, which is really useful in many situations.
Useful, yeah. So yeah, birds of prey covered. Thanks for listening to the podcast and come back next week.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah. So birds of prey, the comic book, we will get into in a second.
I was really disappointed that it wasn't just about birds of prey. I was hoping for like an illustrated textbook about birds of prey. That's what I wanted from this, and it's not the experience that I got.
The problem is that from a British standpoint, you could view it that it was because I don't know if they have in the rest of the world, but we colloquially refer to women as birds. So
we do, yes. And I like to think
the birds of prey.
And I like to think that somebody in America got wind of that, and they were like, "We're making a female group of superheroes. What should we call them?" And there was like one bloke from Clapham in the writing room.
He went 40 and bloated and smoking a cigar. And
he's got like a fag on and he's having a snifter of whiskey at midday in the writing room.
By the way, that's cigarette in British.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry, Americans. That's what we
cut that out.
No, it's funny. Like right. I remember I was in the
5th of November. Is that where you're going?
No, I was at a really I was in Williamsburg in New York. And it was a queer poetry slam that I was at, right? And I went into the smoking area, and obviously it was like our first couple of days in New York, and we'd not bought cigarettes. And I walked out to some geezer, I went, "Excuse me, can I bum a fag?" And this American bloke fucking looked at me, and he was like, and his eyes widened in horror at what I'd said. And I had to backtrack and be like, "I'm really sorry. Bumming a fag is a British colloquialism for having a cigarette." And he just opened a pack of Marlboros, still eyes aghast, and handed them to me.
I mean, the fact that he gave you the cigarette was a pretty good sign, to be fair.
I don't smoke anymore, thankfully.
For that reason. Don't want to ever, any chance of getting into that miscommunication again.
But no, I definitely asked a quite queer-looking American man if I could bum a fag.
Well, misinterpreting local dialect aside, I will say, I do think it's funny that in England, birds of prey probably means like a group of nuns.
And
moving on from that.
You cut mine out and you left that in.
Yeah, leaving the gold in, obviously. One thing I do want to get across is the fact that I originally proposed us revisiting the Boys comic.
But we didn't for a reason.
Well, to tie into the Boys TV show, unfortunately, Volume 2 of The Boys gets into essentially some really homophobic areas. And to get into the nuance of like judging if it was or wasn't, I don't think would have been, for one thing, we are not the people to discuss it.
It's also just not a very fun episode.
Exactly. That was the biggest point as well. So the only reason I'm mentioning it at all is because the title at one point was going to be The Boys Are Back in Town. And then in brackets, it was going to be Us, We're the Boys. And
that's really good.
Well,
is that why you snuck it in now? Just because you didn't want to waste it?
Yeah, I didn't want to waste the gold, obviously. Mainly, I wanted to do it because I wanted to get the comment from the same person as before, who pointed out my Star Wargish board. It was like, and me explaining why it was called that, and them going, it's not funny if you explain it. So I was like, I want to get you again. I want to get your comments every time.
Nice.
So, yeah, could have done The Boys, but...
If you're listening, Guy.
Garth.
Is that his name?
Garth Ennis, yes.
Well, it wasn't Garth Ennis who said that. I just meant that guy.
Oh, right. So I thought you were talking about the writer of The Boys.
No, I'm like, my guy, if you're listening, comment, please. We want to hear from you.
Yes. Guy or they.
Guy or they.
Yes.
I think guys is pretty gender neutral these days.
Statistically, if you're writing mean comments on the internet, you are probably a bloke. Like,
this is very
statistically. True. So, Birds of Prey, getting into it. Another Eisner nominated comic, which is, again, going to be pretty much from now until Deadpool comes out.
Anyone would think we're just going through the list of Eisner nominees and reading all of them.
I mean, we were doing that before the nominee list came out.
Yeah,
so again,
right.
As we've established, we are ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
The other thing as well is that it's written by someone whose work we've enjoyed previously, which is The Cull. By Kelly Thompson.
Yes.
So I thought it'd be interesting to see what this person does what we've enjoyed what they did outside of the superhero comic book book too, and now let's see what they do within it. So we get into that, and we also have some other credits, which are the first 4 issues, art by Leonardo Romero, colors by Jordie Bellaire, and lettering by Clayton Cowles. Issue 5 has art and color by Arist Deyn. So that's going to be, I mean, we might as well starting with the arting already, aren't we? But we have to do the theme tune first.
The theme tune that we always do.
You made the face like we weren't going to do the or like you'd forgotten that we were doing the theme tune, which is odd because we've done it every single episode since we started.
We have.
Yeah. So it's starting with the arting, and we're going to talk about art.
Right, so...
the artistic integrity of the theme tune that is about art.
It's very important to me. So, first 4 issues, and then issue 6.
5. Oh, so yeah. I know what you mean. Continue.
Incorrectly corrected me.
Yes.
Have a very congruent art style. It looks like comic books from, I would say, maybe the 80s.
I would even say 50s, 60s. Because the
50s and 60s had brighter colours.
The 80s had brighter colours. So you remember when we did Days of Future Past, that old X-Men? That was quite contrasting. And the Christmas special from the 80s?
Yeah, you're right.
Contrasting colours. 60s, 70s was a bit more muted because I think just the technology of printing at the time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because back then they couldn't do grey very well because, again, the technology, which is why the Incredible Hulk started grey and then they went, grey's too difficult. We need a new colour, so they made him green.
Imagine living in a society where making grey ink was too difficult.
Yeah, apparently.
You just mix...
mass print at the very least.
You just mix some black into some white.
I assume smarter people than us had bigger problems than that. What colours do we mix? Like, does anyone know?
So, yeah, but that art style looked good.
Specifically, the colours and the drawing, like every part of it was very 50s, 60s.
It was really nailed on, wasn't it?
I found really refreshing because it felt like a modern version of that. And I was like, I haven't seen this in ages. I definitely haven't seen a modern version of it ever. So, loved that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked good and I enjoyed that. And I remember sort of opening it and I actually Googled the comic book we were reading because I saw the cover and the cover looked really modern. And then I opened it.
You thought you got a different issue of like a similar title.
Yeah, and I looked at it, I went, oh, this is...
it was jarring.
I double-checked and had a quick Google and was like, yeah, I'm reading the right thing, that's fine. And then just set about enjoying the art. And the art was good in those first 4 issues and was really good in issue 6. And the art wasn't bad in issue 5.
It was so different. Again, it was so different, it was jarring.
But it was so... Exactly. And it was just so different. And it was...
Was it kind of manga style? but like coloured manga?
No.
Because I thought the eyes were quite big and the facial features remind me a bit of manga.
It looked to me like an illustrative
Maybe.
Illustrative interpretation of modern animation.
Okay. Anime or animation?
Animation, like American animation.
I got a bit of a Japanese specific influence from it.
I don't know, because it doesn't look like manga, does it? I mean, you've read some manga.
Yeah, and not totally, but I was trying to kind of get what it reminded me of.
I felt that those character models wouldn't look out of place in like a modern DC cartoon.
Maybe. But again, the eyes were quite big, and eyes are big in animations as well. For some reason, I just got anime from it, or manga specifically. But again, it was so kind of out of left field that it was a bunch of different inspirations.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the difference, because the first 4 and the 6th issue are quite a distinct, or like, if you get the reference, then you know what it's referencing.
Very
kind of
traditional comic book style.
Whereas issue 5 was maybe a bit more all over the place.
Yeah,
Still quite bright and colourful.
I would love to know what the person who did that issue was doing at the time, because I'd love to see if the artist from the... it feels to me like it's so different that it had to be purposeful. Because did you notice that the cover art was in the original style?
Yeah, cover art was by the original artist.
Yeah. So it's not like the original artist wasn't there. Like, you know, if they...
I think they do the covers like all at the start or something.
Right, but again, that just felt really incongruent to me as well. Like, I would have liked... Just picking this up as an artifact, this run, you know, this 6 issues that we read.
By the way, we've read issues 1 to 6 of Birds of Prey. I usually mention that and I forgot.
I would have liked to have seen a cover in the style of the comic, if that makes sense.
Of the
issue 5.
Right, yeah.
Because you see the cover and it's one thing, and then you open it up and suddenly it's just a completely different fucking comic book. And it just felt really jarring to me. And I think the fact that I preferred the original style is neither here nor there. Because if we'd been presented with a comic book that was entirely in the art style of issue 5, and then I'd have gotten one issue that was in the original art style, I still would have found that really jarring.
Yes.
I didn't dislike the art style, and there was no jank. It was well drawn, it was well coloured. I really liked the lettering in that issue. I thought the lettering looked great. I thought it was laid out really well. It was nice. It was nice to read. It was nice to look at. But it just completely blew the tone of the whole comic. Because again, there was a real congruence with the tone of the comic and the art style. And that wasn't there in issue 5 because the art style was completely different, but they'd had to try and maintain the original tone so that the story could just keep rattling along. I don't know. I didn't like it.
I think generally when you just change the art style in the not just in the middle of a comic run, but in the middle of a story, like an arc, it'd be one thing if it kind of wrapped up the arc, like the first kind of 6-issue arc, and then issue 7 was a different art style, and you go, okay, well, we're kind of same characters, same setting, but we're moving on to a different story, and now that it ties in with a different art style. This was like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, this was almost more egregious than Spider-Man last week. Because at least with Spider-Man, it was a different artist trying to pick up from and maintain the style of the original artist.
And
they didn't do as good a job.
Yeah.
They didn't do a great job, but at least they fucking tried.
Yes.
And but which makes me think this must have been a purposeful choice. This has to have been a purposeful choice. They didn't just get an artist to fill in and then let that artist do whatever the fuck they wanted.
But contextually, I couldn't see any reason why. Like,
no.
It's not like they went, say, into another dimension for an issue or anything like that.
And that, like, if they'd have just made it canonical.
Yeah.
If they'd have given me
Across the Spider-Verse, when they go different dimension or different dimension characters.
And if they'd have just given me one speech bubble of superhero shenanigan bollocks, they explained why the comic book I'd been enjoying for 4 issues now looked completely different, I probably would have been on board with it.
Yeah. And, what's the word? Obligatory, if I had, was it 2 nickels for every time that the art changed within the first 5 issues of a comic book series of the last 2 weeks that we've read, I'd have 2 nickels, which is still weird that it happened twice. It's never happened in the history of the podcast. And now all of a sudden it happened twice in 2 weeks.
I mean, I think Nightwing's art changed a bit, didn't it, through the run?
Yeah, and even that not distinctly enough.
No, not noticeably enough.
I don't think you caught it as obviously as you did with Spider-Man and this.
No, I mean, with Spider-Man, I'm quietly impressed with myself because I didn't look it up and I turned to you and said, art changed in issue 4, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, did, yeah. Like, I don't know how I clocked that. I do know.
I think it was the jank.
Yeah, no, it looked different, but it was the fact that they were so obviously going for the same art style. It was a subtle degradation of quality as opposed to a complete change in art style, which is what we're presented with here. And I don't. Can somebody write to me from DC? I just want an email explaining what happened. I won't mention it on the podcast. It will just be between you and me.
If you're referencing the Spider-Man one specifically, that was Marvel.
No, I meant this one.
Oh, for this one, right, yeah.
Yeah, if somebody from DC could just drop me an email, I won't tell anyone you've done it. comicglitter@gmail.com. Got that call to action in real big early this week.
Still got to do it at the end, though.
Fuck you.
You haven't got out of it by doing your homework early. Doesn't work like that.
No, you've just given me an extension task.
I think if you got a response, it would be as benign as like, oh, they were ill for a week and we had a schedule. Like, I think that it would be like the most common reason.
You'd just get somebody else in to crib the style, wouldn't you? It just feels like the wrong creative choice.
It's hard to imagine being a creative choice. Because it doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah, potentially
to do it one. I think, unfortunately, the benign reason of someone was ill or scheduling or whatever else. Yeah. Maybe they had a pay dispute for a week and they didn't know if they were going to get them back, and then they came back and they went, well, we like that original art better, so we'll put you back on. Like that, a multitude of boring reasons why it could have happened.
I just need to know which boring reason it was.
Because you won't sleep otherwise.
No, this is going to bother me for weeks.
I don't think anything's ever bothered you for more than an hour in the time that I've known you.
No, I'm thinking.
You're like that gif of, if anyone's seen the puppy that like can't focus on any one thing, and it like looks at another dog and then it looks at a butterfly come around and then it like starts to chew its own paw and then it like looks again and it falls over because it's like looking at so many different things.
I think that's unkind. I'm capable of incredible focus for an hour a day between 7 and 8.
Don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time. Simpsons reference. Look, a couple of points that I really liked about the art, other than the general style, which, as I say, we're talking about the 50s, 60s kind of style.
Yeah.
Great, innovative panel layouts at points.
Yeah.
I like there was a big fight scene in one panel, and it just had all the fight happening across the one panel.
That was like a big splash panel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just, again, it was only 2 main characters and a bunch of assassins.
There
nameless
were,
assassins.
however, moments when they were having a fight scene and they were zooming in a little bit too close to where the punches were landing, and I couldn't tell who was punching who. And so that bothered me.
I agree. I don't think any of that disrupted the story because it didn't matter in the moment.
No, I
think
agree.
More getting across the sense of like punching is happening.
Yeah.
And you don't need to know who specifically is punching who. It's like which team's winning. Like that's what you kind of really need to know, isn't it? They had the old school sound effects. If you said, I don't know if you noticed them this time.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? I was really much because I reflected after listening to the Spider-Man episode. I think it was the Spider-Man episode where I mentioned I don't. Yeah,
I was like, it was the Transformers. So I was like, I really like the sound effects, and you were like, what?
Yeah. So I actually made a conscious effort to look for them today. I liked clack. Clack is a good sound effect.
I took a picture of my favorite one, which I'm showing you now.
Bonk.
Great
Bonk is good.
Because they're being hit by like a mallet or something. I think it was a mallet or
well, it's Harley Quinn, isn't it? So she's always got a mallet.
No, sometimes it's a baseball bat.
So she had a mallet in this situation, didn't she?
So a mallet makes a bonk
But
noise.
people call her baseball bat girl.
Yeah, because she has used a baseball bat before as well. The mallet is more synonymous, but she definitely has used a baseball bat at times.
Well, in the cinematic interpretations, it's a baseball bat, because I imagine that was easier.
No, it was a mallet in Suicide Squad. That exact one. You got to add the pre as well. What are we? It's not funny without the what are we?
Yes.
And again, a lot of innovative panel stuff, like going outside of the panels a lot. There was a bit where Harley's asking like a bunch of questions when they're kind of early teaming up kind of bit.
And they squish it together.
And they trail off, and then it gets to like question number 8 and that kind of stuff. Characters going out of the panel when they're going into like a magical world.
Yeah.
And they become X-rays or skeletons when they're going off. Fight scenes between superpowered people, which I won't get into who just yet because I don't want to give away the spoilers just yet.
Spoilers.
But there was these big, impactful strikes happening within a fight, and the panels were the reverberations of that impact. So the panels were literally like outer circles of like where like other stuff happening.
Yeah.
But the entire page was this like like powerful punch kind of feeling.
The way it was laid out made it feel like a really nice, interesting sort of combination between modern panel layouts, modern layouts, and old-fashioned art.
Yes.
Which was really cool. Like, I agree with you.
Yeah, and it felt like they weren't doing it gratuitously. They weren't being like, oh, we need an interesting panel thing to happen here because we haven't had one in a couple pages. It was, they were far enough that you felt they were only done when the artist or writer, or again, as we've said before, we don't know who actually lays out the panels, but whoever was deciding this or collaborating on it, they felt like they got to a page and went, oh, you know what we should do here? Like, it felt like that.
It felt cool, didn't it?
Like an enthusiasm for like, oh, we could do this thing like with it.
And again, you know, we talk about comic books once a fucking week, don't we?
Wherever you get your podcasts from.
It's cool when we see a title that actually makes use of this very illustrative format. And so when we see something that actually, you know, the layout is pulling its weight and is part of the way that the story is being told, that's always way more interesting to me than just, oh, it's vertical thirds again.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's 4 quarters. Oh, we've gone from horizontal thirds to vertical thirds. Wow, so exciting. Like here, it was pulling its weight, wasn't it?
Yeah, each page felt like it was in service of what was happening on that page. So if it was a more conventional style, it was because there was not that much different happening, or not interesting. It was like a place setting page for like the exciting stuff about to happen. But then when the interesting stuff does happen, then it's like, all right, let's put this here and let's put this here. Like, yeah, this might be like a best page layout of the year contender.
Potentially, actually, yeah.
It's just actually remembering it. And it's like, which do we like the panel layout of? Like,
one of us is going to have to go through and listen to a year's worth of comic literature.
You make it sound like if one of us does that it's in dispute who that would be.
Why, who would it be?
Oh, I think it'd be me, wouldn't it?
Why would it be you?
Because I do all the editing and everything.
Yeah, it does feel like... I'm going to be honest with you.
Feels like a Ryan job.
It does feel like a Ryan job, admittedly.
I'll tell you what I did think. I think not this year, but next year, there might be a best of the year episode. By which I mean not an awards episode, I mean best moments of the podcast.
Oh, like a clip show?
Yes, because as I've been editing, I have thought about moments where I go, you know what, I would actually... If I made a note of that... Then at the end of the year, I can just like, it's a bit of work, but at least if I know what I'm doing and what I'm getting, then I could go in and chop them all up and put it in a clip show.
But what we could do, instead of it just being a clip show, we could have a headphone splitter.
Right.
And a computer with a big audio file with them all lumped together.
Again, this is a lot sounding like jobs for Ryan.
This is a Ryan job. I have a headphone splitter. I have the kit that we need. And then we could both have a set of headphones on, or like over one ear like you are now, and then listen to the clip, edit it into the podcast, and then the clip show is us reacting to ourselves. Now that I've said that,
it sounds like a lot of work.
It also sounds a little bit like, you know, the moment in...
It sounds like a React channel.
Yeah.
To reacting to ourselves.
And I do not want the Fine Brothers to come for me.
Because they've copyrighted the word react.
No, they tried.
No, I know. There was no chance they were going to.
They went for... That was a while ago now. That was like a good 10 years ago.
Don't make me feel old.
But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Have you seen... I've seen footage of some of the kids from the Fine Brothers talking shit about them. Like...
I don't know who I don't know who the people are. I just know a thing happened where someone tried to copyright the word react.
Apparently they're kind of tossers.
That's not surprising considering what they attempted to do. It's not a shock.
So I think it's Brady Harron who runs Number File.
It sounds like Number Wang to me.
That's Number Wang. No, I've been re-listening to the Hello Internet podcasts with Brady and Gray.
Right.
And Brady tells a story that like he had a physicist react to something and he got an email from the Fine Brothers basically saying, if you want to do that, you need to just come to us and license it. And he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's tosser behaviour for sure.
It's arsehole behaviour. Imagine if we sent an email to every person we heard talking about comic books and being like, by the way, guys, just so you know.
We were the last people to start doing this, but we've decided we own it.
Yeah, it's ours now.
I think reacting to our own content is the most... I mean, we're already past the point where Bo Burnham in his Inside special
Yes.
did the joke of him doing that.
Yeah.
So I think if you do it after then, it's even more hack because like we've already made the joke about it like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you guys are earnestly trying to do it.
God, Inside was 5 years ago.
I pulled that number out of my ass. I have no idea how long it
2020,
actually was.
mate. It was 4 years ago.
4 years ago then, yeah. There you go.
Fuck, Inside is
But did it
4 years
release in
old.
2020? Because didn't he
No,
make it during...
It came out in 2021.
Yeah, so 3 years ago. It's not that far.
That's a long time ago. Bo Burnham's 33 now.
Ugh. It's disgustingly talented for being a similar age to us.
I know, isn't it upsetting?
When you find out a younger person than you has achieved more in life, it ruins your day.
I mean, Alexander the Great had taken over most of Europe and died before
Yeah,
he
but we
was our
don't
age.
know he's actually done all that. Like, I'm not disputing the historical facts. I'm just saying if I don't see it with my eyes, then I don't acknowledge it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
John-
it's outside our mind.
John Keats had written an ode to a nightingale and died by 25.
Again, if I hadn't seen it, then doesn't matter.
The fact that you've not read John Keats isn't John Keats' fault. It's a failing in the British school system.
John Keats needs to do more to earn my attention before I start
What, does he
reading
need to
this
get on
stuff.
fucking Twitter?
Yes. Or
Come
YouTube.
Come read the new poem I'm dropping, guys.
Until someone reacts to his poems, then how am I going to know what he's written?
I'm going to make a channel specifically aimed at Ryan where I just
Read poetry.
react to John Keats poems.
Just reading it going, whoa!
Why he's so good? He's really
Just
good.
that. So, you've delayed it long enough, but I think it's about time that you tell us what the story of the first issue is. I think first issue is enough to kind of get across, story of the entire series, but without spoiling anything from the later issues.
I can do this really succinctly.
Okay.
The first issue is the first 20 minutes of a heist film.
Yes, in a sense.
Not in a sense.
Well, what
it's
are they
literally
heisting?
what it is. They're heisting a person from Themyscira?
Close, Themyscira. You're
Themyscira.
really close, yeah.
So they're heisting somebody's little sister, who, by the way, is a fucking ninja assassin and could probably just break out if she wanted to. Plot holes abound.
Amazonians are like magic people, so it's not like clear cut, like she's being held in Alcatraz. Like it's a bit more.
Right, okay. I mean, I have issues. But, so they're... I don't know who any of these people are other than Harlequin.
Right.
So they assemble a crack squad of slightly enhanced and mad women
Yep.
who are going to heist a person from Themyscira.
Yes. Yeah, you've got there in the end. Yeah, absolutely.
Got there in the end. I nailed it in one sentence. I just knew you'd need a longer soundbite.
That's like if I said, what's the thing? That's like if I said, what's the film, the book, the film is Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. The old 40s one. I can't remember the name of it.
20s, The Great Gatsby.
Yes, Great Gatsby. It's like if someone said, what's the Great Gatsby about? And I went, sad rich bloke.
I mean, it is.
No, but you're only saying that now because you want to reinforce what you said originally.
No, do you know what, Ryan? If I asked you what your central observation from The Great Gatsby was and you said sad rich bloke, I'd be like, yeah, fair.
That's a reductionist take on it.
It's about,
It's like if someone said, what's Macbeth about? And I went, guy becomes king. That's
well, no, because that doesn't quite get you to the central observation of Macbeth, does it?
And heist doesn't get you to the central observation of Birds of Prey.
I think it does. It's a heist comic.
But you're missing the fact that it's rescuing a family member is quite different from like Ocean's 11 where they're stealing money, right?
Depends on how much you value your family and how much you value money, doesn't it?
Well, right now, I'd say it goes family and money, but depending on how much my family annoy me, it could then switch on any other day.
Well, this is it.
And while I've got family, I normally have next to no money.
Yes.
So maybe I appreciate this stuff more. If I had more money, would I appreciate more money?
Well, I'll tell you
Judging by
what,
rich people, no.
if you, humble listener, could share this podcast with 10 of your friends.
Or just send us some money.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we have that?
Put not like a Patreon or like a traditional way. I mean, literally money in an envelope. We'll make a PO box. Hard change, like coins specifically.
PO boxes cost money.
No, I don't want to do that.
Not free. If they were free, everyone would have one.
Wire us Bitcoin. I think that's a thing.
I don't really know how blockchain works. I'm not like a technically minded person. Although I've even had 2 separate people message me this week and be like, "Are you not on Instagram?" I'm like, "Nope." How has it taken you this long to notice?
That's fair. So one thing we haven't actually got across yet, quality. what did you actually think of the story?
Right. Okay. This is going to be the lion's share of the podcast, I think.
Are you needing to go into spoilers to get into what you think of it?
No. Yes.
Should we dance around some non-spoiler stuff just for the listener who might not have read it yet?
Okay.
Would you recommend them reading it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just, fucking...
How do you find this compared to your bulk standard superhero comics?
It is no Spider-Man... Oh, what's the really bad Spider-Man we read?
Spider-Man Reign.
It's
no One Bad Day.
Yeah, it's no Spider-Man Reign, but it's also not up there with like Supergirl or like the really... Yeah, it's not all the way up there with like Supergirl and Nightwing, which are probably my favorite DC that I've read. But it's by no means bad.
My general interpretation was going to be good, not great.
Yeah, it's by no means bad.
It seems like what you're fishing for in terms of a conclusive appraisal.
Yes. Yeah. No, it wasn't bad
Great
at all.
Great stuff in it.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the story was interesting enough that I wanted to know what happened next, but I wasn't so gripped of like it was like, the story was good, not great. Like good because I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I wasn't exactly like just bloody last week with Ultimate Spider-Man, which I think was great. I wasn't quite gripped to the story of every page, but I was reading it going like, oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, that's good what they've done there. Like that kind of reaction.
I was mostly flicking pages, enjoying looking at the artwork.
Yes.
If I'm being honest with you, I enjoyed it I enjoyed it immeasurably on that level. Yes. And I think something that I've noticed between you and I, as people who read comic books all the fucking time, I am in it for the artwork in a way that you're not, and you're there for story beats and plot in a way that I'm not.
Yeah. I think that
if you're heavy into artwork and you like comic books as artifacts,
if you love interesting panel layout,
if you like comic books as artifacts and you like to just get like a nice fresh comic in a little bag from a comic book store and open it up and flick through the pages and just enjoy spending half an hour with it, and then you pop it away in a cupboard somewhere knowing that you've got that pretty artwork in your house, I would highly suggest this. I thought it looked great. I didn't dislike the story. I did find the dialogue a bit stodgy at times.
See, compared to the droll of most superhero comics, I found the dialogue was more interesting. It was less over-expositional than other stuff. It could still be a bit corny at times or a bit cheesy at times.
Really cheesy.
But I feel like that it was kind of unapologetically going for that.
I'd like to pull up a moment with Harley Quinn.
Sure.
Which I think really kind of demonstrates what my issue was with it. And it's just so, like, this moment is just so on the nose, and I get that it needed to be there, but it was so on the nose.
I think I know what part you're going to reference. Is it her reasoning for joining them?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it says...
I was going to almost make a note about this as well.
Yeah, so it says, she says, felt like it could be said again. But yeah, I don't like it when people mess with cool-ass little girls and any girl that is a ninja before... Oh, fuck me, can I try that again?
You want another take?
Yeah, can I have a second take on that?
Do I have to remove the previous one, or...?
No, that's fine. let me try that one more time.
Let me direct you into it, okay?
Okay.
So I've done a bit of voice acting, so I can help you with this.
Okay.
Just breeze through it. Don't think about it too much. Just kind of say it as naturally as it comes to you, you know?
I used to be a teacher. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so it's bigger.
And I will give you the ready?
Yeah.
Action.
Felt like it could be said again, but yeah. I don't like it when people mess with cool-ass little girls, and any girl that's a ninja before 10 is pretty damn cool. So yeah, I'm here to make sure cool-ass little girls get to grow up and become cool-ass women. I'm in. Right? Thank you. That didn't take 2 takes. So
I left them both in.
So I get it. This is Birds of Prey. This is DC's big moment to say, we have an all-female ensemble. Let's weave in...
I mean, this is like the biggest all-women ensemble, I would say, across both comics.
Yeah, it's probably...
studios.
On some level, I think it's the only one, isn't it?
Yeah. There are other lesser-known ones.
Yeah. And so I get it. Like, it has a place, but I just think that sentiment could have been way more powerfully delivered.
I know what you mean. It's kind of, again, going back to Kelly Thompson's previous work, we've read The Call. This was what I kind of pointed out with that speech towards the end of that story, which was it was an all-encompassing, like, here's the metaphor kind of thing, like, rolled up towards the end.
She does like having that big mouthpiece. Oh, fucking hell, man. Mouthpiece character talking to the audience moment. And Harley Quinn is looking directly at you out of this panel as she says this. Like, it's so clear that this is being directed at you, the reader, not another character in the comic book, right? Even though it is contextually, it's being directed at another character, but it almost smacks of fourth wall break. You know,
I think I almost brought this up myself. Like, I almost made a note of it, and I thought, you know what, never mind. And the reason for me, and I wonder if this affects your opinion or not. For me, I felt like this was really consistent with Harley Quinn as a character. Like, she talks like that. She talks in very like she's a cool-head ninja girl. Like that is very Harley Quinn thing to say.
No, it was still the fact, but I don't think the fact that it was expressed in Harley Quinn's voice makes it any less on the nose. It was very on the nose, Ryan.
But I think she's an on the nose character. Like, she talks in that way.
So this was my first time reading anything with Harley Quinn in it, and I haven't actually seen the film. Yeah. So I've not. My only real experience with Harley Quinn is seeing Margot Robbie in movie trailers,
right?
Which I think is a pretty, that's fine.
It's one of the versions of the character. It's probably one of the most well-known versions of the character. So,
at this point, and we all love Margot Robbie. She's fantastic.
She's fantastic role. She's a fantastic actress. She does like all her own stunts and stuff. Like
Margot Robbie's a fucking legend. She's amazing.
She learned to roller skate and stuff for the Birds of Prey film. I don't know if you knew that there was an actual film.
Yeah, I had heard. Yeah.
She and gymnastics and all this just to play Harley Quinn.
I mean, she's one of the best bits of one of my favorite films at the moment.
Should I leave in all this silence before you say it? Or do you need me to go, what film?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I need to leave.
If I'd never said it, how long would you have left that silence going for?
Oh, we'd still be here tomorrow.
Better run. I'm going to increase the silence in the edit to make it even more awkward.
Now the audience will never know how much silence I actually left.
No, exactly. Did I put more in or did I take it out?
It's the scene of her in the bubble bath in The Big Short. It's so good. Like, it's so clever and funny.
I like that. I think I prefer of those types of scenes in that film, like the Anthony Bourdain one.
The Anthony Bourdain one is really well written.
Yeah. I think it's a better explanation because it literally uses like a visual example of what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, he creates a metaphor to explain the concept, whereas the joke in the Margot Robbie one is that it is literally just Margot Robbie in a bathtub.
You're paying attention because it's Margot Robbie in a bath. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a funny joke. And I love that she, because that was quite a while ago, wasn't it? It was quite early in her career.
Not that early. I think she'd already done Wolf of Wall Street, which was, I think, her big break.
No, I feel like The Big Short came before Wolf of Wall Street.
Nah, I think it came after. Because it wouldn't have been the joke was, here's Margot Robbie in a bath. It wasn't, here's a hot woman you don't know in a bath. No. It's, here's Margot Robbie. So I think it must have been post.
But I love that she did it.
Yes.
I love that she took that, because that's just so cool. And we love Margot Robbie here.
And if anyone hasn't seen The Big Short, watch it tomorrow. Watch it yesterday if you can.
Yeah, somehow. It's really good.
It's essential viewing for everyone, I would say.
Steve Carell's amazing in it.
Yeah. Christian Bale.
Really great.
Yeah, really reserved.
Yeah.
For a role all of a sudden. The weird eye thing he somehow does.
Yeah, I know. That must be a prosthetic.
The bit where he's waiting while people are talking and he just smiles to himself. Yeah. And then he just goes back to normal. And like as a acting choice kind of thing, like it fits so well with that character.
And then Ryan Gosling.
Object to the tits. One of the best lines in cinema.
Is it Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the right guy? Yeah, he's really great in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, The Big Short it's on Netflix right now as well. Like, it's so good.
Oh, my quant. His name is Wang.
And then it turns out he actually speaks perfect English, and he just does it to make him look more Asian.
Yeah. So yeah, watch The Big Short. Watch Margin Call as well. It's kind of a spiritual sister film to it.
You mentioned this to me recently. I've been meaning to watch it.
It's interesting. It's really good. Back to the book. Back to the comic. Obviously. Yes. Yeah, dialogue again. I enjoyed it, but it was a bit better than your standard superhero comic.
I just found Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, if you say it like a name, it's Harley Quinn. If you say it like the pun, it's Harlequin.
Yeah. Oh, so is her superhero name not Harlequin? One word. Is she always Harley Quinn?
Her name is just Harley Quinn, but it's a very obvious play on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just found her a little bit annoying.
Yeah, that I have had that from time to time. Like, she's not my favorite character by a stretch.
And I didn't like the quirk of Big Barter calling everybody little thing. I just found some of the characters' quirks a bit annoying.
See, this is interesting because I enjoyed it. I thought while I was reading it that you were going to enjoy it more than me. Like, I just got that sense. I thought this was going to be more up your alley than mine.
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, and I'm not calling you out being like, you should like this more. But like, it's just, when we have like guesses on what the other's going to think about it.
I definitely like, there were moments that I found really funny.
Yeah.
Like Harley Quinn getting a megalodon to take them to...
Yes, King Shark.
Yes. King Shark got a megalodon for them.
Yes.
Like, that's just so dumb.
Mm.
And then when King Shark turns up and he's like, well, I'm kind of the king of the sharks, so that also sort of makes me the king of the megalodons, so I think they listen to me. And it's like, have you not tried this out before, my G?
I will say, one thing that did kind of change my opinion on the character, and it's a weird one that like one interpretation changes like the rest of how you view like other interpretation or other adaptations. There's a Harley Quinn TV show, a cartoon, which is really funny. Animated, adult, like it's all these jokes about DC characters.
Right.
Like how Bruce Wayne is like pet daddy issues and mummy issues that he never resolved, and that's like his driving force being Batman and those kind of jokes.
How the guy who plays Nightwing has a massive wang.
No, great ass.
Great ass. He has a great ass, doesn't he? Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne's got a big dick, hasn't he?
Well, we don't know because we saw that we've been over it. We're like, did I show you? I think I show you.
We did a whole
outline.
We did a whole like 15 minutes on a
Deep
podcast
dive.
episode about it.
And a real introspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really funny. And I think, I don't know, maybe that's kind of like made me more favor the character when I didn't before. I think I did find her more annoying before, but the character is meant to be annoying to most people. Like, she is kind of the closest thing to a DC version of Deadpool.
Yeah, I suppose, actually.
What is also good is she is a good kind of super metaphor for the whole someone who's come out of like an abusive relationship kind of thing, like that metaphor with her relationship with the Joker. And what is interesting about that is that wasn't intentional from the start. Like normally those kind of things, like big publishers try and write those things from the start, and it just comes off like handed attempts at those kind of things.
Wasn't super present here, though, was it?
No, but that's because the character's moved past it now. Like she's like it would. I think it'd be old doors. What's it called? Old hat. It'd be like going over the same stuff again to have a keep being like her defining characteristic.
Yeah,
but she's been through that, and I think if you're someone who's kind of seen her go through that, then that's like an admirable trait of a character.
Yes. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
But the main point we're trying to get is it was kind of a natural thing where she started as the Joker's sidekick and like romantic other half, but like in a really fucked up dynamic of a relationship. And the fact that she's now out of that, and it played into like how difficult a thing that is and how she's atoning for the bad stuff she did with the Joker.
Yeah.
She's, I think, now at the point where people are like, she's good now. Like we're there now.
The one thing I did enjoy about it is issues 3 and 4 when they're on. You're going to have to pronounce it for me.
Themyscira.
Themyscira.
I think we can go into non-spoiler. I think we've covered like enough.
Yeah,
we've said
totally.
enough general stuff. I would say it's worth a read. If you haven't read it at this point and you're interested, to me, again, I'm surprised I'm more higher on it than you. I think it's, compared to the typical superhero comic, it's a lot more interesting, a lot more better written. The story's more interesting. Especially the relationship between the different characters is really interesting. And that is, I will get in some points I really like that may or may not sway your opinion.
So I definitely enjoyed it more than if you'd given me something bang average.
Yeah.
And
which we'll be doing post-July once, because we've done too much good stuff.
Yeah. We need some garbage.
Yeah, we need to balance it out.
And again, my issues with the dialogue and some of the story beats didn't hamper my enjoyment of it. Even though I found some of the dialogue to be really on the nose, I didn't dislike that in it.
Yeah.
It's just something that I noticed about it and, a critique that I had of it.
Yeah, same like how I, again, pointed out in the call, but it wasn't like, it's ruined it all for me now. I was just kind of like, this is a nitpick of this one thing.
Yeah, it was still enjoyable. I really liked them on Themyscira. Obviously, the big spoiler is that Wonder Woman's there.
Yes.
Anita?
Who?
Is that her name?
Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
What, her real name?
Yeah.
It's Diana Prince.
Diana. It's because none of them use their superhero names for each other. They all use their Christian names, which I found really sweet and endearing.
And to be fair, it's more accurate because the superhero names, in theory, are meant to be for like when you're out fighting crime and that kind of stuff. Here, everyone knows everyone already anyway.
So, something I need to get out of the way.
Yep.
Member of the Bat family.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Who the fuck is she and why is she friends with Harley Quinn?
So, I mean, we're several layers in on the whole Bat family thing.
Yeah.
Because like I've said before, I want to make a video about this at some point. It's like that iceberg meme.
Yeah.
So like how deep in do you know like Bat family?
Well,
And-
I'm getting there.
Well, but it's ridiculously deep for no reason.
So who's this chick?
So her name is Cassandra Cain.
Yeah.
Her Bat name or her super name I think is Orphan, I think.
That's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is meant to be about the fact that she was raised and brought up in the League of Assassins and somehow was rescued or something.
Right, okay.
Again, this is like deeper than my typical knowledge of Bat family.
Yeah.
I've read comics with her in, so I know a bit about her, but I know she's got like I've got a really rough, loose idea of her backstory, which I don't even want to attempt to tell.
But is she actually in the Bat family or does she just dress up like Batman?
She's in the Bat family, yeah.
Batman Jr. Senior.
No. Batman.
Batman Jr.
Yeah. No. Is it fair to call him Junior? Because we give the appropriate name Senior. Does one person being a senior automatically make the younger the next in line
so
a junior?
I think what's Bruce Wayne's dad called?
Thomas Wayne.
So I think Thomas Wayne, when he takes up the mantle of Batman,
is Senior.
Batman Senior.
Yes.
And then Bruce is Batman.
Yeah.
And that makes Damian Batman Jr.
By blood, but he wasn't the first because Nightwing was the first one to adopt the mantle.
So that makes Todd. Is he Todd?
No, Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson. So does that make Dick Grayson can't be Batman Jr.
But he's also rejected the mantle as well.
Yeah. So no, I think it stands that Damian is Batman Jr.
I mean, he is by blood should inherit the mantle,
and he's already currently Robin.
yeah. No, you make a good point.
I think I'm doing quite well at piecing the Bat family together in my own weird, twisted way at the moment.
But to be fair, like, you know a bit about Jason Todd, maybe. We haven't even touched Tim Drake yet. And he's before Damian Wayne.
Yes.
That's, again, it's a whole nother
So
area.
Cassandra Cain.
Yes.
Where does she fit into the Bat family as it exists?
Like, she's around a lot. Like, she's a recurring character now, but she's quite late in, like, introduced.
Yeah.
Or the main thing I know about her is when I've read her previously, at one point she was mute. Like, she didn't talk. And it was like
She certainly does now.
Yes. And that's like, I think like a character growth.
Is that why she's got that face bit over her mask? Because on her mask around her mouth, there's like a sewn up portion. Is that what that's for?
I assume so. I don't know. But I would assume, how it hazard a guess, that I think it originally had the mouth open like Batman's. Like it was a pre-existing costume.
Yeah.
And she's obviously added that part because she maybe, felt like a vulnerability or something.
Well, if you mute, you don't need a fucking voice hole, do you?
I mean, do you need one if you're fighting crime anyway? Like, what's that old joke? Like, Batman only has that space in his mask so the police know he's white. Like,
is that an old joke?
It's a joke.
It's really funny.
I mean, it's hard to deny.
Birds of Prey.
Yes.
All these characters, are these characters that were created specifically to give Harley Quinn an ensemble?
No. So I think some of them have been in Birds of Prey before, but they've all got their... Well, I say all. I don't know about Zealot. I don't know who Zealot is. I haven't seen them before. Yeah. If I don't know, I'd be shocked if you knew them. I don't know. I know Big Barda.
So, despite not liking her that one quirk of her calling everyone little something, I liked Big Barda a lot. I'm interested in Big Barda. I want to know more.
If you want more Big Barda, boy, do I have a comic for you.
Yeah?
I can't remember what year it's from, but it's called Mr. Miracle, and she's like the second most prominent character in it after Mr. Miracle himself, who they are a couple together, and it's written by a little-known comic book writer called, I think it's Tom King, I think his name is. It's really good.
Have you noticed that a certain somebody hasn't been coming up very much recently?
If I think I know who you're talking about, he does make a couple of references in my first video coming out soon.
Is it
just naturally?
Is it Mr. Alan Moore?
It is. Yes.
So if you're a recent,
I call him a Sorcerer Supreme.
If you've been listening to the podcast recently but haven't dived into earlier episodes, don't. The quality's different.
Yep. Better now.
Yeah, it's much better now than it was. But also, Alan Moore was we talked about Alan Moore so much.
Yeah, every episode for, I think, like the first 10 episodes almost.
Maybe the first year, mate.
Maybe, yeah. It was consistent, like, it was consistent to a scary amount if you're Alan Moore. Like, people you never know of talking about you for 10 weeks straight.
I think what then happened is new people became memes on the podcast.
Yes.
So like Chip Zdarsky, Tom King.
You like that one I sent you, the Jonathan Hickman tweets?
Yeah, the Jonathan Hickman tweet. I found that really funny. Like we end up talking about John Romero Jr.
If someone
a lot.
was listening, I was like, what's the tweet? Like,
find it.
It's search Jonathan Hickman Batman tweet. It's really fun.
It was funny.
Yeah.
So I like Big Barter.
Yes.
The main character, I felt that she had the least personality out of all of them.
Yes, hers was very much I'm saving my sister is her driving thing. Her name is Black Canary. In terms of personality, so here's the kind of thing. She is the love interest of Green Arrow. So that
I clocked that.
Yeah, you saw Green Arrow. Like, you didn't obviously know maybe at first when he was just naked in a bed, but later you're like, oh, it's Green Arrow, who I think was a really cool depiction of him trying to distract Wonder Woman and just being not necessarily bad at her, just like how a non-powered person would fare against like a Wonder Woman or a Superman or something.
Yeah, I mean, the whole way through he was like, please work. Oh my God, it didn't work.
No illusions that what he was doing was even close to succeeding.
As she approaches him, he says, this is going to hurt for weeks.
Yeah. But so Black Canary being the love interest of him, I think she's a little more undeveloped and not having as much personality. And again, people could write in, she's had solo series, which I've not read, so maybe I missed a lot, and I'm, pointing that out there that there's people who might have read that and gone, no, she got personality in these adaptations. I haven't read them. But generally, what I've seen of her, she's very competent. She has this superpower of the Black Canary cry, but she rarely uses it because she's such an adept martial artist and all that.
So she doesn't need to.
Yeah.
So was she trained by the League of Assassins?
No, I don't think so, no.
But her sister was?
Yes. So in what I learned from reading, because I didn't know this beforehand, the sister is like, she's an adopted sister. She's someone who was raised by the League of Assassins, and then Canary helped her escape and somehow adopted her as a sister, essentially.
Right, okay.
So Zealot, again, I have no idea who she is, but I found her very interesting.
She was cool with her like samurai armor and her swords.
Yes.
Hers was my favorite character model out of the issue 5 character models. I thought that slightly shinier art style really made her armor look good.
Yeah.
Like, I thought she looked particularly good in issue 5.
I'll tell you one thing I did like, and this will kind of get into like the wider characters, and how they interact with each other. I liked there was a bit of difference between recruiting these other characters for Canary. So there's a mystery at the start where original Birds of Prey member, in like original runs, Barbara Gordon.
Bab.
Yeah.
Who's Babs?
Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, Babs.
Commissioner Gordon's. She's Batgirl, and she's commissioner. She was Nightwing's girlfriend in the Nightwing series.
Oh, yeah. That's Dick's girlfriend.
Yes.
Oh, that's why she looks so chirpy.
She cannot go on the mission for some reason, and it's made obvious that if you're a Birds of Prey fan or you know the Birds of Prey, the first question on almost the first page is, why don't you get Barbara to help? And she's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of mystery given there. But then after that, she's trying to put this team together, and it's literally, she says the point of the team is she just needs a team that looks intimidating to just get something done as quickly as possible.
And it's really interesting because they sort of, they get the team together, they're ready for the heist, and she gets them all in a room and she's like, oh, there's something missing. We need a little bit of pizzazz. And it's like, oh, get Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Get the most famous character.
Yeah.
I like, again, how everyone kind of different ways of agreeing to it. So Cassandra Cain was just like, yes. And I think she might have a sister, and that's influenced why she was so eager to help. I did make a note that it was kind of weird that she just had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
It's not that heroes don't want to help, because as we've established, if you're a hero, then you are someone who is just always available to help with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that she just didn't have anything else going on. Like, she's like, basically works for Batman.
Yeah.
So you'd think, so like, oh, I've got a ton of cases. Like, my desk is full of assignments.
You think she'd be
Batman.
doing Bat Family stuff, wouldn't you?
So I thought that was a bit odd that she could just be like, yeah, I'm free. Like, I could do whatever. The Zealot, it was a lot more, it was a calling in a favor. So I liked these differences in the characters agreeing. Zealot was like, I don't want to do this. And Canary's like, you literally owe me a favor. And
but
so I was like, fine.
ultimately, they all do the Rick and Morty thing of going,
You son of a bitch,
I'm in.
And that has just ruined heist-themed stories forever. Like,
and ultimately, that's what that first issue is, isn't it? It is that we're assembling a crew for a heist.
Yeah, and to be honest, at the first issue, I was kind of mid on it. It wasn't until the second issue we saw the more interesting stuff about it, where I was like, okay, this is actually working for me now. Barda joining was just kind of like, oh, it's a sister thing, and I know, and I'll kind of help you.
Yeah.
And then with Harley Quinn, I thought it was really interesting dynamic there where, so the reason she gets suggested in the first place is Cassandra Cain. And I did really appreciate this little tidbit. So I've got this thing where non-superpowered characters being rolled, like, we need them in the team. It's like, what can they actually contribute?
Yeah.
Like, I'm making a video of it with regards to the Suicide Squad, which will maybe come out in a month or so. But what I liked here is Cassandra Cain giving a specific example of why Harley Quinn is useful in that moment. So they say, literally, like, we need some, unpredictability.
Yes.
Or that's what Cassandra Cain suggests, because she describes this fight with Harley Quinn she had, and the fight goes, Cassandra Cain being this world-class trained assassin and fighter, she found it difficult to fight Harley Quinn because she was unpredictable.
Yeah.
So like Harley Quinn going for a weapon in a kitchen, and Cassandra Cain clocks the frying pan, and goes, she's going to grab that because that's the most logical.
Hits her with a fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I liked that explanation, and I thought it was told in an interesting way. It wasn't just like, oh, no, she's unpredictable because she's crazy, and that's why we need her. It was like, here's a visual storytelling of why she's useful and why they need her. So really appreciate all that. And where do we go from there? And then following that with Harley Quinn, I liked that there was a constant story about Harley Quinn feeling like she didn't belong in that team with them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where she says, either you trust me or you don't. Like either I'm one of the gang and you let me do my weird Megalodon idea, or I'm just not, clearly you don't want me around.
But then,
and she got them there. Yeah. She did get them to Themyscira.
And what really encompassed that for me, which again I thought was a good plot point, was Black Canary saying to herself, she goes, if we don't get there, I'm going to kill Harley. It's like, but if we get there, I'm going to have to thank Harley, and I don't know what's more difficult.
Yeah.
And then when the way to get there, she goes, hey, Harley. And Harley's like, yeah, all right, I know it was a rough ride, and like, it was the best I could do, and you didn't have any other plan. And before she could even like finish all that, Black Canary's like, stop. Just want to say thanks.
Yeah.
And you can tell Harley's got that like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, and I don't know how to process this like honest.
Don't know how to process somebody thank you. Oh, that's so sad, isn't it?
And again, that comes from her closest relationship before this being the Joker.
Yeah.
So, it kind of, that's what I mean by it kind of carries on in her character, but it's not the focal point.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah. And I did clock that as well. And yeah, I hear that. So, plot holes. I
have a couple of plot holes, yeah.
Yeah, there were some glaring ones, weren't there? So, there was a big one at the end for me.
Yes, what do I have from there? I mean, I've got notes. What's yours?
So, what's her name? Diana?
Diana?
No. The sister who is doing the rescuing.
Black Canary. What is her name? Her name is Dinah Lance. Yeah,
Dinah. Yeah.
You've got a Dinah and a Diana.
Yeah. Dinah.
Yes.
Weird fucking name.
Dinah.
So basically, there's this god that's trying to use her sister as a vessel and wants the body so it can be human, right?
Yeah.
And Dinah manages to the sister's sort of inside it while everyone else is fighting around it. And Dinah manages to break into it.
Big tentacle look thing, which I really did like the art in issue 6 of
it looked cool.
And I think a bit in issue 5 as well. Like she looked like a big imposing, like a big anime monster.
Yeah, totally.
Which again, why I got kind of anime from that issue 5.
Yeah, she reminded me with the ghosty thing from Spirited Away.
A little bit with the mask. Yeah. I got big like Akira vibes when it's like big monster kind of thing.
But anyway, so Dinah's in there with her sister, and she says, why don't you just use me as your host instead of my sister? And the monster says, well, no, it can only be your sister because I needed to be invited. And you're like, well, if that's the reason, Dinah's just invited you. Like, she's just as good a host as the sister, and it made no fucking sense.
I got the sense, and again, I think this is me inferring, so it's not, like, solid or anything. I got the sense that once this... So the god thing, I think, name was Majera or Megara?
Megara, yeah. Or Majera. Doesn't matter, does it?
Bam Margera.
Bam Margera.
Let's say Megara, because otherwise I'm just going to keep thinking... Bam
No,
Margera.
the bad guy is now called Bam Margera. This is one of the best jokes in the podcast, is where we just name stuff.
Is it one of the best jokes?
Look, it's the one that I do the most often.
Or is it one of the most recurring jokes?
It's one of my
All right,
favorites.
so Bam Margera.
Yeah.
I got the sense that it couldn't attach to anyone, but once it got invited, it could only be that person from then on. That's
Right.
the way I read. And again, that's not obvious. I kind of read that in between lines. Like, because Margera being like, it's too late when Diana offers herself instead. It's like, oh no, it's too late because it's already been kind of confirmed.
But then Bam said it can only be them because I was invited.
Yeah.
But Diana had just invited it.
No, but again, because someone's invited first, it's locked. That's what I got the sense that it was locked in.
Yeah, but it wasn't
I'm
made
not
clear.
Yeah,
It's just
and that's.
plot-holey.
I agree. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't clear enough. I got the sense of that, but I can easily see why someone wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I got that sense, and I guess that because I joined those dots, you then don't think about it any other way. Or
Yeah.
like you don't look at it going like, was that clear enough? This thing that I interpreted, like you miss it because you're already thinking about it. But that's what I got. I got a kind of, there's a bit of plot. So like if we jump straight towards the end,
Yeah.
I liked a part and I didn't like a part.
Okay.
I liked that. So normally in this kind of superhero comic thing, so it culminates in this tentacle god Bam Margera fighting for control of the sister Sin.
Yeah.
And as they're fighting for control, they're being sucked into this magic urn, which is like the thing that I probably originally trapped
Yeah.
Bam Margera originally. So while they're fighting for control, Bam's like, we're both going to get sucked in here. You need to do something. And Sin is like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself to stop you. So immediately I'm thinking, it seems dire, but because I've read so many of these, I just assume that Sin's going to get away and everything will be fine. And it kind of was, but I did find it was an interesting twist. They was like, all right, how about like if I secede control to you, we still both go, and I'm still in you, possessing you, but I don't possess you. Control. Basically, Sin remains in control, but she has this demon in her.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
But it seems that she gets superpowers, right?
Yeah, and that's a classic, like, well, looks like this unpowered person now has powers.
Yeah.
Like, how long? If readers like it, then it'll stick, and if they don't, then we'll reverse it in a few issues.
Well, pull the god out of her and stick it in the jar.
Exactly. But what I didn't like was then the god seemed to then be good themselves after.
Well, they were just tamed, weren't they?
And I think it would have been, this is nitpicking, maybe. It would have resonated a lot better if there was more of a what's it, not a fight, but like a resistance between the two.
Yes.
Like kind of like Hulk and Banner.
Yes.
I think that would have been more interesting. And then maybe if we follow these characters, that could be a character arc for both of them.
Well, it seems that she's going to be part of the team now, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because Dinah made it very clear throughout that when I rescue Sin, she's going to be here with us now.
Yes, yeah. I did like, it did feel, so one plot hole I've got, again, combined with a point I like and a point I found a plot hole.
Yeah.
Someone asked very early on, why don't we go to Wonder Woman? And I think that was very smart.
Yeah, because that would have been the question the whole way through, if not, wouldn't it?
Yes. And I think the answer was good enough. Because
the answer made perfect sense, which is that
she probably would say yes and help, but if there's even a 1% chance she doesn't,
and if she says no, the whole plan,
there'd be no chance of doing anything there.
Yeah. And also, I think it was one of those situations where it was easier to ask forgiveness than permission, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Like, it made perfect sense.
Yeah. The plot hole for me, and again, it doesn't interrupt the plot hole, it's more like, why did anyone think of this? But basically, we get to a point where, because as we mentioned earlier, Green Arrow tries to distract Wonder Woman, doesn't work. Wonder Woman's like, I better get to Themyscira. She gets there and immediately sees these people she knows, like other women superheroes who she knows and has met before. It's like, why are you burgling my house and my home, basically? At that point, I think that's the point when you try to reason.
I do, however, think there is a glaring plot hole around that whole concept, though.
Right.
And we get to the very end, and the space-time travel-y character?
Yes. She was a weird one. She was a very plot-based character.
So basically, we get an explanation of why they didn't invite Babs. They didn't invite Barbara because they tried it 11 times and she died every time.
Yes.
So if they had infinite rerolls on this, you'd think at least once they'd have gone, should we just ask Diana this time and see what happens?
Maybe one of those times was her saying no.
No, because Barbara and Sin died every single time. They make that so specifically clear.
Maybe Wonder Woman saying no meant that they attempted regardless, and it was then an impossible mission because
you cannot read into it like that.
I mean, there's space.
They made it clear that they attempted that heist 11 times.
Yeah.
So they had infinite rerolls.
Yeah.
And not once did they think to go.
You don't know that.
Well, we do, because they attempted it 11 times.
Yeah. One of those attempts, or all of those attempts, could have been, we went to Wonder Woman, she said no, and then we tried anyway.
But do you not think that it would have been explained at that point that it's like, oh, by the way, we did try and ask Wonder Woman and she said no?
But them talking...
You see my point, though, right?
But them talking between each other, they wouldn't talk like that.
You can't...
Right, if we're talking to each other...
You can't...
No, let me try, before you dismiss. If we're talking to each other about this, I wouldn't say to you, yeah, it's a real shame that Wonder Woman said no all those times. Because you know that already. Like, that's a weird, over-expositional thing to say if we already know this.
No, you cannot argue that they asked Wonder Woman because there's no textual evidence that they did.
Right, fair enough. But because they don't say it to each other, again, I'm not saying that it excuses anything, but what I'm saying is you can't use their lack of saying it to each other privately if it's information that they both already know. Like, it's if you and me talk to each other privately, we wouldn't be like, it's like our podcast, the Comic Lyric podcast, where we review comic books. It's like, you know that already. I wouldn't say that. But we
do it weekly.
We say it for the audience.
But even so, okay, take that out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
You've got infinite rerolls of this, clearly.
Yeah.
You just ask Wonder Woman at different points in the day, or just wait until Wonder Woman was in a good mood and keep asking. Like, they've attempted it 11 times, so they clearly have a machination by which they can keep going back and retrying this. Yeah. Why not just ask Wonder Woman for clemency? Like, it makes not a lick of sense.
But again, how do we know they didn't? Like,
because there's no textual evidence that they did.
But textual evidence isn't the same as information happening within a universe that we don't see. Like, prime example, one point I was going to make, a positive point, is they reference all the stuff going on with the US government and the Themyscirians going on at the same time, right? But just because we don't see it in this one, like, they reference it, but we know how bad all that stuff is because we read the Wonder Woman series, also by a little-known writer called Tom King. But because we saw that in another comic, we know that's happened.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
Okay.
Well, I just don't think what you're saying supports your point.
I'm more saying, what I'm hearing is you're criticizing it. I think you criticize it for, like, I wish they had put this in for further clarity. Like, I get that as a criticism. But when you say a plot hole is they should have done this, and I'm like, we don't know they didn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe it's a difference. Maybe it's a semantic difference between criticism they could have been clear on, and we've made points like that already, where it's like, wish they had explained this clearer, and I inferred things that we don't know. It, like, the whole, it needs to be invited to explain stuff or whatever.
You headcanon a lot more than me as well, in fairness.
Yeah. I think for me, a plot hole needs to be, I cannot reconcile this. Like, this, there's no way this makes sense.
Whereas for me, it's like there's a lack of textual evidence for this.
Yeah. And I think it's worth asking. It's like, what were those other attempts? Did any of those attempts have anything to do with Wonder Woman? Like, it's a absolutely fair question. And I think you could definitely criticize the writing for not putting something in that where, like, so the two characters who are talking are Black Canary, Diana Lance, and the future time traveler character whose name of Meridian or something.
Are they?
No idea. I've never seen them before in my life, so I have no idea. But then after that time traveler character disappears, you then have Orphan turn up, and she goes, "Oh, if Barbara Gordon's in danger, I want to help." Right?
Yeah.
What we could have had, to answer your point, is we could have had Orphan come in before, like, during the conversation with the time traveler, and Orphan could have been the one to say, did Wonder Woman help her? Or, like, did we try asking Wonder Woman any of these points? Like, because she would have had the realization if she kind of stumbled in, and she was listening.
Yeah.
So we know she knows this information. If she had come in like, what the fuck? We had infinite goes on time travel. Like, did we try asking Wonder Woman at any point? And they could have gone, yeah, we did. And that's why we died a bunch of times, because she said no when we tried to do it anyway.
We lost a bunch of our attempts to it.
Yes. So, yeah, there's absolutely room where it could have been further clarified at that point. Yeah.
It just felt like a plot hole to me.
Yeah. That's why I'm always careful. It might not sound like it, but I do try and be careful with my words in terms of like conveying the correct meaning, which normally resolves in me just like stuttering when I forget a word exists or whatever.
I think my problem with it was specifically that they made a very specific point of referencing the reason they didn't ask Wonder Woman, but then later on they gave us a revelation that they had infinite goes at it.
Yes,
and it's like, well, did you?
and that's a fair.
Did you try the obvious thing that you knew was a 50-50 chance that could have saved all of this violence? Please tell me you did.
Yeah, and again, this is another thing with my natural filling in the gaps with my own headcanon. Maybe it wasn't infinite goes.
Yeah.
Like time travel, we think of time travel as inherently, you could just do it as many times. But like, was it like Back to the Future? There was like a fuel source and they had to like...
they got up to 12.
Yeah. But they couldn't just do it like constantly, could they? So maybe there's some kind of like what's the point what's her name makes about like, I can transport myself to the island, but I can't take group with me. So we know there's space and time has some kind of like limitations on it or something.
There's some rigidity.
Yes, but it could have been explained better.
Yeah.
But then maybe it goes to show you were invested enough in the story that you were thinking about, like, if you weren't as invested, you just wouldn't have even thought
I was quite invested in it. Yeah, I was. Yeah, it wasn't bad. What was the other one I noticed?
I really liked what they did with the Zealot character and her like a pact with the island.
Yeah, but again, it wasn't fully explained because we then have a revelation that she wasn't allowed back on the island at all. So I feel like she was just worried about getting in more trouble with Wonder Woman than she was already in.
I mean, maybe.
Which is fun.
Yeah. And we don't know all we know is, so at being asked at the start, because she has to do it because she owes Black Canary a favor.
Yeah.
She straight up says, she almost leaves because she goes, I'm not killing any Amazonians.
Yeah.
And Black Canary has to be like, we're not killing anyone. I mean, at least that's not the plan. And then later, Zealot, when they get to the island, and I have no idea what Zealot's deal is. So I was just like, I just thought, this is cool. This character's doing. She cuts open her arm. She finds a beach.
Yeah.
She kneels on the sand. She cuts open her arm. She takes a worm out of a little box she's got. She's got a second worm, so she's got a backup one just in case.
Just in case.
Puts the worm in the cut in her arm, covers it with some sand, goes, oh, because the sand probably really hurt if the worm didn't.
Yeah.
And then
the worm didn't.
Yeah. We know the sand hurt. At the
yeah,
very
absolutely.
Least. And then she says, I've made a pact with the island, which means I cannot be killed, but I cannot kill anyone.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like okay, so you're immortal as long as you don't kill anyone. Like, that's interesting. And then she goes, look, and stabs Harley Quinn in the torso.
It's like, I physically cannot kill somebody.
Yeah, like literally the sword goes out, wound heals, like she's alive. So I thought you know what I thought? That was a great example of balanced magic in fiction just generally. Because magic, like science fiction is one thing, but with magic, there's a whole like, why couldn't there just be a spell that fixes everything?
I would take the shit out of that deal, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. Like it's great, and it's dual meaning as well, because it's not only like a great spell it's not just like great for anyone to have generally, but it reinforces this idea of she doesn't want to hurt or harm Amazonians, or she feels, like you say, that she doesn't want to get in more trouble because she's already banned.
Yeah.
But I just thought I really like that stuff because it's hard to do in fiction, and especially in superhero stuff. The idea of magic not just being like, you can't just do anything all the time.
Yeah.
But you can make these like trade-offs and like compromises.
I think that's my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite. Like, because there are different sets of logical rules for magic, aren't they? I think that's always my favorite, is where there's like materials to be given and it's like one for one. Yeah. You know?
Doctor Strange had a good thing where it said all magic has a price.
Yes.
And it's the idea that like if you use magic a lot, then it drains on your body if you don't give it something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought I noticed that was like, that's a really cool, it's a thoughtful thing of like giving her this superpower almost, essentially. Yeah. But it ties in with her as a character. We had Ryan's last little fun notes.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm breaking the fourth wall a little bit here. I listened back to the the theme tune from the last episode that we do all the time.
Yeah.
But I just happened to listen to the back to last one. I was like, my heart's not in it. Like,
We don't need a theme tune
It's not
for
worth
everything.
like that. I think I'll just give it like a hold up, wait, Ryan's got a few more things to say.
Okay, go.
But I'd say it more like the streets rather than like the original rapping.
Yeah,
Like talking
okay.
rap. If anyone doesn't know, the streets.
You're going for Mike Skinner.
Yes, exactly. Hold up, wait, Ryan's got a few more things to say.
There you go. Look,
Yeah.
Well done.
So the one character who I'm a big fan of, and I don't think we've talked about even once, probably not, John Constantine turned up in
Yeah,
this.
who the fuck is John Constantine?
He's a magician by trade. He's a Englishman.
Right.
Always smoking, always drinking. He actually kind of came in around the time of in the kind of same universe as the Sandman and Swamp Thing, which big Alan Moore title. But he was kind of folded into DC because they had all these Black Label titles.
Yeah.
His original one was called Hellblazer, which like I read the original one and it's kind of crazy. But basically he's this like powerful magician, but in the sense that like he makes deals and spells and stuff. Like there's a thing about his character where he's referred to as one of the few, if only, humans who can actually trick the devil or God. And the reason being is apparently because his bloodline comes from like old, like really powerful wizards who literally got so powerful that they could hide their thoughts and feelings and so on from like the God and devil and stuff. Like, yeah. But he has this really
God
cool.
can't see what I'm thinking, motherfucker.
Literally. Yeah. He has a really cool backstory about like how he accidentally sent this girl to hell when he was trying to summon demons for a laugh.
Nice.
And that's
for
like,
a laugh?
Yeah. Like literally like a fucking around with black magic kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he then carries that guilt with him like as kind of
you
defining
wouldn't you?
Character traits. Also, I don't know if you noticed this. Can you guess? Fun game. This is like a reference to actually what his original drawing was based off, like his character model. Can you tell who it is? They've done a deep dive reference by drawing him like that.
So is this a person?
It's a strong reference to who he was originally modeled off.
Is it Clint Eastwood?
No, think English like him.
It's not.
Think one name.
It's Sting.
It's Sting.
That's mental.
Yeah, his original. I'll see if I can find his original.
He does look a lot like Sting, doesn't he?
So I only saw that because I went, oh, he was based off Sting, and he looks like Sting there. I'll see if I can find like original early run Hellblazer because it was really
Hellblazer. Why do I recognize that name?
That's just the comic that was called. Like his comic line was called Hellblazer, and now people just refer to him as Constantine. So now when he does a new title, sometimes it's Constantine, sometimes it's Hellblazer. I'll just see if I can find, and I'll.
That's a weird little quirk from history, isn't it? Are there any other like comic book characters like that are just the artist just used the reference? I suppose the artist there was like a lot of pictures of Sting, and he needed someone to base it off of, and he just did, right?
I think he liked the look of Sting essentially.
He's a good looking bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, this was early days Constantine and Sting comparison.
That's fantastic.
And if you Google, for anyone listening, if you Google John Constantine Sting, you'll get an entire page of like comparing images.
Yeah, he looks a lot like young Sting.
Yeah. In terms of other times this has happened, there's probably a bunch that I don't know. Though one of the few I do know is there was a comic book artist, and I have no idea which titles this is for.
Yeah.
There was a comic book artist. So there's a lot of like stealing each other's, like they would like people would stencil over each other's work and like rip it off and that kind of stuff. There was one guy who based a lot of his stencil of his character models. He would nick them by stenciling over like still images of pornography. So
to get the grunty faces.
Well, just to get to get human bodies. Like where else are you gonna have as much access to like superhero costumes and stuff? Like either they're basically naked or they're wearing like the skin tight lycra where you see all the muscles anyway. So I think this guy's thinking was, where else am I going to find naked pictures of people where I can like steal that's not well known?
Naked buff people as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like vintage porn is full of muscly dudes, isn't it?
Yeah. And all he had to do was erase the pubic hair and he was good to go. Much like society has.
Oh, right, it has. That's such a weird observation.
But not wrong.
Not wrong at all. No, not on any level.
So, what a note. Actually, did I say my final notes? Yeah, John Constantine, interesting character. He's always a bit of like yeah, I'll sort you out magical stuff kind of thing. And
then his magical stuff's always a bit wafty, right?
no, his magic is good. The problem is he gets into positions where it's like, hey, you fucked this up. No, he doesn't fuck up, but he weasels his way out of situations to an extent where someone always ends up paying for it, if that makes sense. So it's not that he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't get things wrong, but he will be in situations where, like, I will not let this, like, innocent person suffer kind of thing or whatever. And it tumbles and it, like, snowballs and it snowballs and he dipping and dodging and, you know, making deals. And then it just catches up to the point where it's like, either you're fucked or someone's got to take the rap for you. Like, that's the kind of Constantine, like, thing. There was a good film where unfortunately he was played by Keanu Reeves. And I say unfortunately, I like Keanu Reeves, but he was horribly miscast. Like, he doesn't look anything like him.
I mean, there's an obvious person that should have played him.
Well, he was a bit old by the point they made the film.
Who looks like Sting?
Like a young Sting.
Tell you who kind of looked like a young Sting. What's his name? Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, but he's getting on a bit now as well. If they met, when they made the film, maybe it would have been a little more suited. I will show you who played him in a TV show, which he does capture the look really well. He might not look like Sting, but I think he embodied the character very well.
So Ryan showed me an image of Matt Ryan, who I believe is a British actor.
Yes, which is why he was good for the role.
He's a Welsh actor.
Close enough.
Well,
not that the Welsh would think that.
Technically correct, yeah. He looks good. I mean, he looks very British.
But yeah, so interesting character. Maybe, hopefully, at some point we'll do some more stuff of him. He's always got a series out. Like, he's similar to Daredevil. Like, he's always got a good consistency of, like, stories coming out and stuff.
But is it just middling? Is it, like, good but not great?
I really enjoy it. I think miles may vary on. Like, he's not that maybe he is now. But most of the time I've known him, he's never been that popular enough that they're just, like, churning out, like, we need a new Constantine. He seems to always have writers who are like, can I write Constantine? Like, it's that
So there's committed comic book fans who end up being writers who are like, I want a Constantine.
Yes.
Right, okay.
That's the feeling I get.
That's kind of rad, though, isn't it?
I've never really read a bad Constantine. Some of the early stuff gets a bit middling at the points, but there's one point where Swamp Thing had to, like, take over his body so that he could have sex with his girlfriend. Constantine was like, okay, but then you have to do this thing for me because, like, there's a quid pro quo here. And it's weird for superhero stuff, but he literally exists in the same universe as Batman and Superman.
Well, yeah, I suppose this is it, isn't it?
Batman's, like, not a big fan of his because he just doesn't like Constantine's, like, not intimidated by Batman at all.
Is he not intimidated by Batman Jr.?
Yeah, he doesn't give like, he literally he makes deals with, like, devils constantly. Batman literally is just a guy who dresses up as a bat to him.
Batman, to quote John Green, Batman is just a rich guy with an affinity for bats.
Yeah. John Constantine is, like, tricked the devil into curing his lung cancer.
Oh shit! Because he smokes a lot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Have I got any other last little tips? One point where King Shark calls Cassandra Crane everyone's favorite Batman on board here. Like, he calls her everyone's favorite Batman. I'm like, most people don't know who she is. Like, in this world and probably the DC world. Like,
I think something that's interesting to me is that I've been doing this with you for nearly 2 years now. At least a year and a half. We've been doing this for a long time. I think we've been doing this since sort of November 2022, right?
Yeah, about then, yeah. When we didn't start releasing, but we were, like, working on it from that point.
We've been working on this for, like, a couple of years now. And so I've been reading a comic book a week at least for a few years now. And a lot of that has been Marvel or DC. And we are still turning up characters who have current runs that I've never fucking heard of.
We are still tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, we've not talked about Iron Man yet. No. We've barely talked about Batman and Superman. We've not talked about... we are right. Yeah. But it's amazing just how many of the fuckers there are.
And what's credible as well, if you think about it, you think compared to you, I assume I must come off as like knowing a lot about it, right? Again, we read this thing. There are at least, like, 4 or 5 characters I've never heard of before.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Reading this title. So, again, I'm still learning. But, like, there's some people out there who are, like, in literal encyclopedias.
Oh, yeah, it's
and
crazy.
Know everything. And I'm like, that looks exhausting. And it doesn't account for quality. Like, you just know all the lore or the canon that's happened.
Yeah.
But, part of the reason of this podcast is I want to try and focus more on, like, quality writing and quality art over this idea of, like, well, here's the backstory of this Like, you need to know all this before you go.
And I think that's where a lot of the comic book fandom goes, isn't it? Is into that intense understanding of lore. And I think a lot of internet fandom does these days.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's this sense that you're not a real fan unless you've delved that far into it and you've absorbed all of this. And actually, it's quite nice to just take stuff at face value and go, is it any good?
Yeah. I think
I wouldn't be that interested to know about Vendetta. What's her name?
Which one?
The one with the swords.
Oh, God, I thought I remembered it.
You'd known it the whole podcast,
Yeah,
mate.
I did know it without looking.
I want to call her Zendaya, but that's
Zealot.
Zealot.
Yes,
Zendaya.
which is a cool name.
Zealot's a great name.
Yeah,
like neither of us would be massively interested in her and what her deal was had we not enjoyed listening. Enjoyed reading.
Watching this. It's getting
tired,
late. Yeah,
man.
I think we should wrap up. The only other thing to point out is, surprisingly, it got quite funny towards the end. That the villain actually got quite funny towards the end, right? Made good jokes, like when she's Sin is like, yeah, I don't want you to possess me, like I've got a life, and they're like, oh yeah, let's review life, shall we? Oh look, you're napping again.
That was funny. Oh, that's a really good book. Another nap
again. Yeah, exactly. And then there was another joke which was so
I like
good.
that you said we should finish and now you're just rushing through items on your list.
The last point, did you notice the Watchmen reference?
Yes. No.
It's when Sin and Dinah are in the bad guy in Bam Margera.
Yeah.
And Black Canary says, to quote a famous person. And immediately I'm like, right, how is this canon work?
Yes.
Says, to quote a famous person, we're not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me. Yeah.
And then they reference Pokemon.
Yes. And Pokemon as well, which I thought you would
clock.
On, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I'm like, there's a whole messy thing with whether the Watchmen are part of DC or not. Like, it's really messy. Like, whether it's yeah, I'm not even gonna.
I've heard about this,
but it is messy. Like, we don't even know right now.
We don't even know now. That comic book's like 30 years old or something.
Yeah, but it's the Doomsday series they did a few years ago. But basically, Alan Moore being mentioned again. So,
hey, Alan Moore.
All right. Take us home, you son of a bitch.
Thank you very much for listening. If you want to send us an email, you can at comicliterate@gmail.com. We make shorts. They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. They're actually pretty good. Go watch some. They're really fun. That's all the calls to action.
Leave us a review.
Oh, fuck off. Leave us a review because it's really important.
For the algorithm.
Yeah, apparently
SEO.
It's important. So 5 stars, say something mean. I don't like doing calls to action. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Normally, I would criticize him for that, but that was actually a lot better than his tiredness levels currently, which I can visually see. So I'm going to give him a break for this one. So, yes, thank you. Goodbye.